Bez Hashem, we're starting Siman Mem Aleph, Maamar Shalosh Shevuos. And in the previous Siman, Rabbi asked a few important kashas about the Rambam, and we're going to just say them over. The first kasha was that the Rambam paskins Hilchos Tshuva that there can't be a geula before tshuva. You didn't have to do tshuva before the geula. And the problem with that is that in Sanhedrin, that Tzadik Zayin base, there's a machlokes Rebbe Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua about this, and the Rambam's taking the side of Rebbe Lezer. And usually we don't paskin like Rebbe Lezer. Usually we paskin like Rabbi Yeshua. In this case, it's even more difficult because in the end of the machlokes, you see Rebbe Lezer was shasak. He was quiet and he kind of like admitted to Rabbi Yeshua. And also you have a machlokes Amoraim along the same lines, Rav against Shmuel, where Shmuel is like Rabbi Yeshua, and yet the Rambam is paskin like Rav, which is okay by itself. But then Rabbi Yochanan is also on the side of Shmuel, because Rabbi Yochanan says that Ein Ben David Vayoel B'dor Shekula Zakai Kula Chayev, that Mashiach could come in the door that's completely good, completely bad, which we said means Roiv bad, but the point is that it means that he doesn't have to be tshuva before Bias Mashiach. So how could the Rambam paskin against Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan and against Rabbi Yeshua? And furthermore, the second problem with the Rambam was that the Rambam brings a pasuk in Parshas Nitzavim, V'shavta ad Hashem Elokecha, V'shamata b'koiloi, and then V'shav Hashem Elokecha Shvuscha. First, you'll go back and do tshuva, and then Hashem will bring back the Yidden from exile. So the question was, that pasuk is a very beautiful pasuk, but it's not brought down by Rebbe Lezer or Rabbi Yeshua in any of the places. They bring lots of psukim to support themselves, and they don't bring that pasuk. So you would think that Rebbe Lezer, if the Rambam's pasuk is the basis of his shita, you would think Rebbe Lezer would bring it, and you see he doesn't bring it. But there is one brisa in the Yerushalmi that does bring it, but it doesn't say Rebbe Lezer's name or Rabbi Yeshua's name. That's not clear who it's going like. So the question is, why didn't Rebbe Lezer bring that pasuk that the Rambam brings?
Yeah.
Okay, then the third question that he asked in Siman Mem was that usually we don't paskin halacha in such machlokes. Here's a machlokes about what Hashem is going to do. If we don't do tshuva, is there going to be a geula or not? It's a machlokes what Hashem is going to do. So it doesn't pass. It doesn't make any sense to stick our heads into this and decide which one's right, because whatever happens. It's up to Hashem. It's not something that we have to actually do anything. There's no nafkamina l'maisa for us. Why does the Rambam get involved in paskin on this shaila? Particularly, the Rambam himself says in Pirush Mishnayos, he brings down that the Rambam says we don't paskin on such things. Okay, so basically, what he's going to answer is that the Rambam's statement that there will be tshuva before the geula means before kibbutz galuyos, before the gathering of the exiles, and before the lamaisa de geula, before the practical aspects of the geula go into effect. But Mashiach coming could happen before tshuva. That's basically going to be the teretz. Let's see it inside. Okay. Aval ho emes yoyer darkoi shedivrei Rambam zal einam noigim klal leplukta de tanoi damuroi shebeshas. The Rambam's words are not relevant at all to this machlokes. They're not talking about the same thing as the machlokes Amoraim and Tanoim in Sanhedrin. Who inyan acher mehasam shebozeh kol moedim. The Rambam is saying something else that all the Tanoim agree upon, which is that there will be tshuva before the gathering of the exiles. Because this is a explicit pasuk in Parshas Nitzavim, like the Rambam says. Parshas Bechukos Soif Ois Gimel. Hapluk Tehi B'Oifen Acher. That the Rebbe is going to show now that there's a medrash and there's a Pikud Rebbe Lezer that show that there are going to be two types of tshuva and two stages in the tshuva. Let's see it inside. He says the machlokes is in a different way. The Yesham Gimel Deis. There are three opinions there. Rabbi Yehuda Soiver Im Ein Oisim Tshuva Einam Nigalim. Rabbi Yehuda there is the sheet of Rebbe Lezer, who holds if they don't do tshuva, they don't get redeemed. Rabbi Shimon Soiver the Af Im Ein Oisim Tshuva. Even if they don't do tshuva, but Kivin Shemagia Kates Miyad Nigalim. When the time comes, the geula comes without tshuva. That's like Rabbi Yeshua. And then Rabbi Lezer Soiver Sheim Ein Oisim Tshuva. Maybe it's Rabbi Lezer, I'm not sure. Rabbi Lezer holds that if they don't do tshuva, then Hakadosh Baruch Hu Ma'amid Lahem Melech Kasha Kahaman. The that Hashem will make them do tshuva by having a king arise who makes gzeres against the Jews, and they'll, because of that, the gzeres and the fear of those gzeres, they'll do tshuva. Uva Pirkei Rabbi Lezer, Soif Perak Mem Gimel, Hevi Gamkein Mem Rabbi Yehuda. It brings down Rabbi Yehuda also, who holds that just there won't be any gula without tshuva. K'moy shehu b'tanchuma, Shimei Yisrael oisin tshuva enim nigalim. They don't do tshuva, they won't get redeemed. El shesiyem acher kach. The Pirkei Rabbi Lezer adds on, ve'ein Yisrael oisin tshuva gedola ad sheyavo Yirmiyahu. They won't do a greater tshuva until Eliyahu comes. Shneimar hinei Elochi sholeach lachem es Eliyahu hanavi. Ve'heshiv leiv avos albanim. You know the famous pasuk that Eliyahu hanavi will be the one who will make people do tshuva. Heshiv leiv avos, the fathers to the sons, and the sons to the fathers. From the fact that the Pirkei Rabbi Lezer says that Eliyahu will bring them to the higher level of tshuva, we see from that there must have been a lower level of tshuva before Eliyahu comes, and that this machlokes, the Tanoim, is dealing with that lower level of tshuva that happens before Mashiach and Eliyahu. Okay. That whenever there's a lashon of gadol, Chazal are always medaik that there must have been a cotton. So here also, if there's a big tshuva, it must be that there was a little tshuva before. What was the big and what was the little? So he wants to say basically that the Tanoim argue whether before B'yis HaMashiach there's going to be some kind of tshuva by the Jews on their own without Eliyahu. But even if there isn't, when Eliyahu comes, they'll do tshuva gedola. Okay, take a look. Ukedusha zikni hayismach Moshe zichron levracha bir shekoydem bias Eliyahu Mashiach yasu tshuva tata v'achar kach tshuva ilah. The Yismach Moshe explains, I don't know if he's going on this Tanchum or not, but he's explaining, or the Pirkei Rabbi Lezer, but he explains that before the Bias HaMashiach and Eliyahu, they'll do a lower tshuva, meaning a tshuva from our side, that we have to initiate the tshuva, and then afterwards there will be a tshuva from above that Hashem will initiate the tshuva. Umiskayim bozeh shneim, and that's how both psukim are fulfilled. Masha Amar Kodesh Baruch Hu Shuvu Elai v'Yisrael Oimrim Mashivenu Hashem. That there's this argument here that the Jews say, Kodesh Baruch Hu first says to the Jews, Shuvu Elai, first you do tshuva, and then v'Yashuvu Aleichem. And the Yidden say, Yisrael Oimrim Hashivenu Hashem. No, you make us do tshuva. So both things happen. First we do it, and then Hashem makes us do it after the B'yas HaMashiach. That tshuva sh'oisim koyem b'yas Eliyahu Mashiach. This tshuva that we do before B'yas HaMashiach, havi b'bchinas shuvu elai. That's when the Jews do tshuva on their own. Ma sh'oisim acher b'yas Eliyahu Mashiach, havi b'bchinas hashivenu Hashem. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, zeh kosev akeda. We find a similar thing. The akeda, the Rabbi Yitzchak Arama from the ones who went to the Spanish exile, right around that time. He wrote the Sefer Akeda. We quoted a few Simanim ago.
Yeah.
So Akeda says in Parashat Nisavim, B'shar HaMeah Shetiyeh Shnei Pa'amim Tshuva, that there will be two stages of the Tshuva. Achas Koyem B'yas HaMashiach, V'achar Kach Tshuva Yoyster Gedola. And then after B'yas HaMashiach there'll be a bigger Tshuva. Pir Sham HaKasuv Yazov Rasha Darkoi V'goymer V'yashuv L'Hashem. It says V'yazov Rasha Darkoi V'ishav V'machshvoisav V'yashuv L'Hashem V'yirachamehu. So there's two stages. First, leave your bad ways, and then do tshuva. Since he left his bad ways, also tshuva. He already did tshuva. What's the second stage? Just to leave and your bad ways is not complete tshuva. Why? Maybe because you have to adopt good ways, right? You have to adopt a higher level of tshuva. There's a lot of other statements in Chazal that we see from them that there are two stages in the tshuva. One before Eliyahu Mashiach come, and then Hashem will make he changes the pasuk here. Before he said Hashivenu Hashem, Now he's saying Ashuva Aleichem. Same idea. V'yoid yesh zman l'tshuva al yidei bias Eliyahu Mashiach. Oh, no, 1 second. No, he means like this. He means before bias Mashiach, the tshuva is going to be Shuvu Elai and v'achar kach v'Ashuva Aleichem. After the Jews do tshuva, Hashem will return to them before bias Mashiach.
So it makes sense.
And then once somebody finishes the sentence, and then after bias Mashiach, then that they have a very strong power as Kol Yisrael b'tshuva. Excuse me. That's what it means. Hashivenu Hashem. Hashem will initiate the tshuva. He's getting into the details of this second level of tshuva. Who will do it? Will it be Eliyahu? Will it be Mashiach? Now the rest of the paragraph is about that. Don't get confused. He did say that there's going to be a tshuva that we start on our own, without anybody, without any Eliyahu or Mashiach. Yeah. That's the first level. The second level is going to be with them. Now the question is, which one of them is it? So now he goes into the details. He says, most places in Chazal, it says that Eliyahu is the one who's going to make us do tshuva, like the pasuk says. Kasher avi lahalon. I'll bring more about this later. Gam Rambam Hilchos Malachim Perek Yud Beis Halacha Beis Kasav she'Eliyahu yiyeh shliach. The Rambam says that Eliyahu will be the messenger liyashev es ha'am, liyasher es ha'am, to straighten out the people, to lahachim libam, to prepare their hearts for the geula. V'yesh min ha'chachamim oimrim. The Rambam says some of the chachamim hold shekoyim bias haMashiach yavu Eliyahu. Only some of them hold that way. El Shadas Rambam Sheish Plukta Bozeh. The Rambam holds the other Chachamim hold that he'll come later. V'yuchal liyos she'amelech haMashiach be'atzmoi yachzir as Kol Yisrael l'tshuva. It could be that it's not going to be Eliyahu. Eliyahu will come later, but Mashiach will come first, and he'll be the one who will make the Jewish people do tshuva. Terem shetiyah ha'geula, before the geula. V'yachar kach yavu Eliyahu lahaviyam l'tshuva yoyser gedola. And then Eliyahu will bring them to even higher levels of tshuva. But Al Kapanim, all these details are about what Eliyahu and Mashiach will do. But there's also another tshuva that we do before they come, and that's what the Tanoim are arguing about. Okay? We're going to explain later how the Rambam got that there's a machlokes about when Eliyahu comes. But the explicit machlokes that we have here in Sanhedrin Sadik Zayin and in this midrashim that he brought at the beginning of this Siman, that Tanoi v'Amaroi im yiyu nigalim af b'li tshuva, if there will be a geula without tshuva, kol yala tshuva shekoyim bias Eliyahu. That is referring to the tshuva that comes before Eliyahu u'Mashiach. Shebavadei rotzen haboyei baruchu she'iyeh shuvu elai v'yachar kach v'shuvu aleichem. Really, it's clear. Everyone agrees that Hashem really wants us to do tshuva before bias Eliyahu and Mashiach. And He wants us to initiate the tshuva. He wants us to be the ones who return to Him. That's for sure better. Ach, Yisrael toinim hashivenu. But the Jewish people answer back, no, we can't. You make us do it. V'achar kach v'nashuva. Hashivenu Hashem v'nashuva, right? Elecha v'nashuva. So uvazeh pligi tanoi v'amaroi. That's the machlokes im yesh mtzias. If there could be such a thing as Eliyahu and Mashiach coming without that tshuva first. Brings a raya from Rashi that the Gemara in Sanhedrin is only referring to bias Mashiach, not to the geula. He says Rashi on Sanhedrin Sham al had the Amar Rav. Rav says Ein adavar tali el b'tshuva, right? Yeah. So Vizel Shanya. This is Rashi. In Kol Yisrael chayzrin b'tshuva yavai. If all Jews do tshuva, he will come. So obviously it's talking about Mashiach. V'im lav lo yavai. If not, he won't come. And obviously Rabbi Yeshua must hold that even without the tshuva he could come. But again, that's only him coming. That's not the actions of kibbutz galius. V'chein kos devoid Rashi zal acher kach b'tat tzadik ches. B'masha amar u'kichlois not nefoitz tichlena. It's the pasuk that Rabbi Yeshua brings as a raya to himself, that after all these things happen, after this time, it's in Daniel, I think, after this time comes, all the tzaros will end and the geula will come, no matter what. So, Rashi says, "Achar shetichle gvurasam after the power of the Jewish people is gone, and they're in a very low level, then their troubles will end. So he says clearly that Rabbi Yeshua is bringing a raya that Mashiach will come no matter what. But again, that's only Mashiach coming, right? As it says in the pasuk in Hazinu, when Hashem will see that their hand is weak. The question is only regarding before B'yis HaMashiach. If it's possible that he'll come even without tshuva, to a low generation that's not worthy of it. And that's what Chazal say, they will be redeemed. It doesn't mean they will be redeemed to Eretz Yisrael and everything. It means they'll be redeemed that Mashiach will come. That when Eliyahu or Mashiach come to announce that there's going to be a geula, that's already considered like a geula. Even before they actually do anything to bring the geula. Or they actually gather people to Eretz Yisrael. The Sefer Netzach Yisrael Per Chaf Daled. That the Maharal says an even bigger chiddush, that even telling when Mashiach is going to come is considered like the Gula. Even when the time becomes known, that's already enough to be called Gula. He says, that's why there's one of the Shevuos that says they should not reveal the time of the end. Yeah? Why is there such a Shevuah? Who cares? Why can't we tell? If we know when the time is, why can't we tell? Because when we do tell, that's already considered the Geula, the Maharal says. If a prisoner knows when he's getting out, that's considered like he's already out.
He's released really at this time.
His tension, his waiting is easy to bear. Okay, Hashem Yisborach Sam HaGolus. Hashem Yisborach is the one who made the Golus. The end of the Golus won't come before its time. Therefore, the Maharal says they should not reveal the end, because that's already called like bringing the Geula before its time.
And also there are two aspects to Golus. There's the physical Golus, and then there's the Gzeira and Shemayim. So the first three Shevuos refers not to end it physically, and the next we refer to not to going to its spiritual parts. Yigu so lumos.
Yeah, but if you're Megal the side, how are you the Kates? I mean, how are you?
Because you're connecting to that part of the Shemayim, of the Gzeira of Golus.
Okay.
And then also the physical, and by bringing by physical force. The Maharal says that these are the two ways of Golus. There's the actual physical exile, and there's a Gzeira and Shemayim. So if you reveal the Kate, then it's directly on the Gzeira and Shemayim, and also physically ending by physically causing to stop. So these are the two ways you go against Golus. When you reveal the Kate, you go against the Koich of Shemayim.
Okay, so V'im Kain, now we showed that the Geula could mean either B'yis Mashiach or even knowing when Mashiach is coming. So Kol Shekain Kishis Gala Eliyahu and Mashiach. Kol Shekain, if they come themselves, V'yedu Ha'olam Sheba Goyal, and everyone knows that the Goyal is here. Not just that he says it's here, but people really know it. Shezeh B'yatzmoi Nikra Gula. That itself is called Gula. Okay, V'ayin, another ride to this. V'ayin Brachas Daf Tesem and Aleph, the Nikra Geula b'Mitzrayim b'Layla. That it was called, the Geula happened already in Mitzrayim in the middle of the night after Makas B'Choros. Given Shenitan Lehem Az Reshus Latzes. Since Paro went around saying everybody's free, you're not my slaves anymore. So
they weren't out yet.
They weren't actually out, but they knew that they could go. They gave Reshus for them to go. So even though Mitzad Hashem said don't go out until the morning, they didn't have reshus to go out at that time. Still, it's considered like there was a Gula then. Okay? That at least when Eliyahu and Mashiach arrive and they're here and everyone knows they're here, that's at least the beginning of the Gula. Even though they didn't do any actions yet towards the Gula. And that's the machlokes of the Tanaim and Amoraim, if that could happen without tshuva. I just want to look at a couple places where the Zionists discussed this. The proto-Zionists, really, from the time of the 1800s. It's interesting here,
or the actual Zionists?
Well, the Rabbi Shalosh started the Chovei Tzion movement.
But he wasn't pro making a state; he was pro selling.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to see that what the Rebbe says here is turned on its head, because here he's saying that the first step will be Bias HaMashiach. Then afterwards there'll be actions toward the Gula after we do the full level of Tshuva.
Yeah.
But just a Mashiach arriving in the exile, in wherever we are, that's the first stage. That's the Aschalta the Gula. And they turn it around. They say the beginning is the actions, and later on Mashiach will come. Take a look in this. This is a copy of Drishas Tzion.
Which one? Which page do you mean?
The page 4.
Okay, the highlighted part?
Highlighted part. V'im yoimar ha'omer, he says, let's say someone's going to have an objection to my shita, that everyone should go back there to Israel.
Rabbi Kalish was saying this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Shiur Kalsher. 1862, by the way.
Yeah.
If someone asks on me, Ein adavar toila ela b'tshuva, he asks from this Gemara in Sanhedrin that there has to be tshuva, right? You can't have the Gula without tshuva. Al zeh ashiv, Amorai loch, then I'll answer to you, haloi kvar nechlechu Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yeshua, b'perek chelik. There's a machlokes about this. Rabbi Yeshua oimer afilu ein oisin tshuva nigalim. And Rabbi Yeshua holds that even without tshuva there could be a redemption. Ukpir sham, Rashi sham, okay, v'nasu, v'nasnu b'davar. And Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua debate the issue of mikrois harbe, with many psukim. Ad ki shasak Rabbi Eliezer. In the end, Rabbi Eliezer is silent. V'nishar halach Rabbi Yeshua. The halach is like Rabbi Yeshua, who holds that there could be gula even without tshuva. Shenishba b'chaya olam. That is a pasuk that Hashem, that the Malach swore by Hashem that there will be a gula at a certain time. V'chein hevi b'sefer anal divrei medrash shmois rabba Omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu imani mistakel b'maasein shel Yisrael ein ani galim l'olam. Medrash says, if I look at what the Yidden do, there'll never be a redemption, because they'll never be on the level for it. I'll look at the office and I'll use their schus to bring the gula. So basically he's passing like Rabbi Yeshua, which the Rebbe already showed that the Rambam doesn't pass like that.
Yeah.
Unless you say that Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Eliezer are discussing something else, which means what he's doing in this Siman is he's saying Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Eliezer are discussing what's going to be before Bias Mashiach.
Yeah.
Nechanami, there could be a Bias Mashiach without tshuva, but not an action like coming to Eretz Yisrael.
That's the exact same thing. How Moshe Rabbeinu did no actions. How although he started the Gula, nonetheless it wasn't finished all the way until Yisrael did tshuva. We find that Makas B'Kor was delayed. It wasn't automatically brought to the next Makas.
Wasn't the first Makkah.
No, and we find Makkah was after Choshek. Moshe had a whole process for the last Makkah. So even though Moshe brought so many sides, still in all, it wasn't. The final touch wasn't hit till there was tshuva. Then we find ourselves.
Rabbi Yalkut Soif Malachi, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Yimein Yisrael Oisin Tshuva Ein Nigalim. This sounds a little bit like the Rabbi Yehuda that he brought in Vayoel Moshe from the Tanchuma.
Yeah.
Rabbi Yehuda says if they don't do tshuva, there won't be a regula. That the Jews won't do tshuva unless they have suffering and exile, and they have wandering, and they have no food. And they don't do tshuva. Maybe means the tshuva shlema until Eliyahu comes. Shnemar hinei sholech lechem es Eliyahu hanavi. Maksiv achra v'heshiv lev avos albanim. Ad kan l'shoynei harei au iker hatshuva b'mei Eliyahu terem geula ho'achroina. So he chaps on the end of the medrash, and he says that the medrash says that the main tshuva will be when Eliyahu comes, before Cohen ben David, before Mashiach comes. Aval behaschala de gula loy talya b'tshuva rak b'shuva al aretz. The beginning of the gula, he says the opposite of the Rebbe. He says that will be totally in the returning to the land.
That wasn't the case before. By Yitzchak, the Rambam even listed the last part of Mashiach's job. The Rambam listed the last step,
and he's ignoring the Rambam, and he's ignoring the pasuk that the Rambam brings, which is v'shav ta'ad Hashem Elokecha do tshuva, and then v'shav Hashem Elokecha shpuscha. Then Hashem will gather you in v'shav v'kibetzcha mikol ha'amim. Right.
Yeah.
So that's clear that the kibbutz galius will be after the tshuva. and then goes on a little longer here, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
And take a look. Next source here is the Eim Abanim Smecha. Much later, of course, during World War II. Taftal, yeah.
But again, he wasn't pro making a steal. He was only pro selling Eretz Yisrael.
Right, only pro
He
selling.
would never have approved what happened 67.
For sure. Okay, but anyway, he says against this Vayoel Moshe in regards to the idea that there will be a kibbutz galis before tshuva. Take a look here. He says, "Ach ateret lazeh matzini b'torah hakadosh parshas nitzavim." And you'll just see what he says and what he doesn't say. Take a look.
Yeah.
Hashem el haaretz asher yarshu avisecha v'yirishta.
Yeah.
Umal Hashem lokachas levavcha. He brings the psukim later on. The same parsha that the Rambam brings, which is v'shav Hashem lokachas shpuscha after tshuva, but he skips that pasuk and he goes down to like a few psukim later. If you look in the Torah in Parshas Nitzavim, it says first Hashem will bring you to the land, and then Umal Hashem lokachas levavcha v'yes levav zerecha, which we understand to mean tshuva. Li'avas Hashem l'kecha b'chol levav b'chol nafshecha l'man chayecha. Ein or chaim shekasav ki acher shemal liboy li'avas Hashem b'chol liboy b'chol nafshoy ein l'cha tshuva gedoy l'mizu. The Or Chaim HaKadosh says that's tshuva. This thing that says there will be a bris milah, a milah on our hearts, that's talking about tshuva.
Yeah.
So he wants to show that tshuva will be after the gathering of the exiles. First they'll be coming to the land. Then Hashem will cause us to do tshuva. But again, he's ignoring the beginning of the parsha where it says you'll do tshuva first. He's totally ignoring that.
Yeah.
And then he goes on, as long as we're in foreign lands, that we can't get this ruach of purity and we can't do tshuva. Therefore, it's a big obligation on everybody to come to the Holy Land. Through these the ways that Hashem has prepared for us, with the Balfour Declaration and everything, and the mandate. Through his messengers, the British. Okay. So again, he's ignoring the beginning of the parsha and taking only the end.
How's it supposed to go? How's it supposed to go?
The psukim go like this. In Pitul Lamed, in Parshas Nitzavim, it starts out, when all these things happen, the Toichacha, and Pasuk Beis, the Shavto ad Hashem lokecha v'shomata b'koila. You'll do tshuva, and you listen to Hashem's voice. Pasuk Gimel is v'shav Hashem lokecha v'shpuscha v'richamecha. Hashem will have Rachmanas on you and bring back your exiles.
So tshuva is mentioned first.
V'shav v'kibetzcha, and then He'll gather you in. So tshuva first, then gathering in. In Eim Abanim Smecha, there's another shtickle here. Just turn the page. Next page. He says, the near lead, the Zen, it's like the fourth line down. Because he does address the Rambam that the Rebbe brings. So take a look. The fourth line down. The near lead, the Zen, Nami Kavanas HaRambam, Behilchas Tshuva, Hanal. The Rambam says, Shekasish De'ein Yisrael, Nigalim El B'B'loi Tshuva. That there can't be a gula without tshuva. Okay, so the question is, that's against him, right? Because he can't have a gula without tshuva. So he says no. The Rambam l'shitosle b'perek kam in the Sanhedrin. The koyim b'yis hamashiach yichavin Hashem as libois Yisrael. The Rambam has a shita in Hilchos Sanhedrin that before b'yis hamashiach we're going to have a Sanhedrin. How are we going to have a Sanhedrin?
But you don't speak. How could you?
They'll be all right. So the answer is we'll be mechadish the smicha. The Rambam has a chiddush that you could be mechadish smicha. Get all the Jews together in Eretz Yisrael, all the Chachamim together, and they'll be mechadish smicha.
But don't you have to find somebody who has a trace to Moshe Rabbeinu first? How can you do that?
The Rambam holds not. So he says that since the Rambam holds that way, so Hashem will be mechaven their hearts. He'll make their hearts straight to do tshuva. Then they'll give smicha to the zekenim. Ayin Sham. That's the pasuk that he brought before about Mal Hashem Elokechos Levavcha she'ein lecha tshuva gedolah mizu. That will happen in Eretz Yisrael. Basically, he's trying to say that this level that the Rambam says about smicha will only happen in Eretz Yisrael, and therefore we first have to go to Eretz Yisrael before the tshuva starts. The Rambam says there won't be a geula without tshuva, So he's trying to drag out of that by saying that first there'll be a B'il Eretz Yisrael, then there'll be Tshuva, and then there'll be the Geula, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Geula is very like abstract idea now because he took it away from the physical meaning. But you can't get away from the psukim the Rambam brings that it says V'shavta L'Shem L'Kecha, and afterwards V'shav V'kivetzcha. The Rambam is saying that this is going to happen after Tshuva. All right. Okay, let's go right to now in the Vayoel Moshe. Okay, Gam yesh loimer al derech shekasav amar shazal b'sanhedrin dat tzadik zayin the plukta der Belezer ver Rabbi Yeshua the Gam Rabbi Yeshua soiver sheyas to tshuva alidei melech kasha kahaman. Remember that in the machlokes there, Rabbi Yeshua says there'll be tshuva, there'll be a geula even if there's no tshuva. So Rabbi Belezer asked him a kasha, what do you mean? How could that be? The pasuk says that there'll be tshuva. So Rabbi Yeshua answered, if they don't do tshuva, Hashem will force them with a melech kasha.
And there will probably be Mashiach who will give them true, like Mordechai did, you know. When Haman was there, Mordechai told Klal the true and guided Klal Yisrael. Maybe similar to that.
But the force, the driving force behind the tshuva won't be Mashiach. It will be a harsh king.
But Mashiach will give them chizuk, you know.
I don't know, but it's not clear that it will be Mashiach will be around then.
Okay,
look what he says. Hamelach kasha kahaman koydem b'yis HaMashiach.
Right.
Before b'yis HaMashiach.
Right.
K'mavur Sham b'Gemara. El da plukta hi the Masha Om Rebbe Lezer the ach imois in tshuva nigalim. Yeah, so the Maharsha is bothered here that if anyway there's going to be tshuva, even according to Yeshua there's going to be a harsh king who makes them do tshuva, then what is this machlokes here? They both agree there's going to be tshuva, right?
Yeah.
So what are they arguing about?
Yeah.
So the Maharsha answers, they're arguing that whether there'll be tshuva ritzonis, tshuva that we do on our own free will. Rabbi Lezer, the Maharsha on Rabbi Lezer, the achim moisin tshuva nigalim. Rabbi Lezer's words that there has to be tshuva, rotzalomer tshuva ritzonis. That means tshuva from our own ratzon. Without the force of a king that's harsh like Haman. That kind of a tshuva is more valuable. Okay? So what is he doing with this Maharsha? He wants to borrow the Maharsha's idea for Mashiach. The Mashiach also is going to make the Yidden do tshuva, pretty much by force. But that's not what Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua are arguing about. So they're arguing about the tshuva that we do before B'yis HaMashiach, not after. Take a look. He says, "V'kivan shaloi dibru bepluktasam ela mitshuva ritzainis." Since we see the Maharsha saying that this machlokes is only about willing tshuva that you do on your own, yesh loimer shaloi dibru gam kein mitshuva shetiyah alidei melech HaMashiach. So you can understand why they're not referring to the tshuva that's going to be done by Mashiach. That's not free will tshuva, bisman galus, that we do on our own during galus. That's a different level. He says, the Rambam with his golden language says, "Melech HaMashiach yachuf es kol Yisrael b'kiyum ha'Torah HaKadoshah." Force. Melech HaMashiach will force the Jews to fulfill the Torah, which everybody asks, like, what does this mean? Mashiach's going to go around at gunpoint making everybody keep the Torah, like the Crusader, like the
so what's the answer?
Like the Muslims. The answer is that, take a look what he says. He says Mashiach will do it with his greatness and his amazing nisim that he does. Everyone will see that he's a Navi. So because of that, it'll be like there's no choice. He says it's not that he's going to force, but it'll be so clear that we'll have to do tshuva. That's like force. Mashiach is like force. Why? Because the Rambam says in his Pirush HaMishnayos, Al Melech HaMashiach, V'zel L'shoynoi, V'yiyeh oiseh Melech Gadol Moed. Mashiach will be a very great person. He'll be known throughout the nations. More than Shlomo Melech. And all the nations will make peace with him. All the countries will serve him. Because of his great righteousness, and because of the nisim that he shows. Anybody who stands up against Mashiach, Hashem will strike him down. And he'll deliver him to his hands. So basically, it's not Mashiach going around with a sword. It's basically that Hashem will just eliminate his opponents, and everyone will have fear of him. So obviously in such a situation you're going to do tshuva, right? So it's not like much of a choice.
Yeah.
So if even the nations have a fear of him, so kol shekain that the Jewish people will have a fear of him. It's almost like they're being forced. It's like that we said before, that the tshuva that will happen after Mashiach comes is not our own initiative. It's Hashivenu Hashem. Hashem is doing it. Gam begerim hisbir maram ben chaviv. That there's a halacha that when a ger is misgayer in a time that's really clear what the Torah is true.
Not a ger.
It's not a ger, but he doesn't have the same status. Take a look.
But we don't accept. We don't
accept on our own. If they come, they come. He says, there were times in history when the Jews had it really, things were really going their way. Mitzrayim, let's say.
But in the time of David and Shaul, they didn't accept ger, remember?
Right, in the Chanami, we didn't accept, but they joined on their own. Take a look. What happened with the Erev Rav? Did they accept them? Okay, Moshe accepted them,
yes,
but it wasn't. He wasn't really supposed to accept them.
Oh.
Anyway, so the Erev Rav Allah itam bo'esh sharo gedulas Moshe ve'Aaron, because they saw the greatness of Moshe and Aaron. They saw the nisim, the makas. V'nafal pachad haYehudim aleim, and they had this fear of the Jews. Einam chashuvim k'moy hagerim shemisgarim b'zman hagalus. They're not as chashuv. Not only we're not makabel them, but even if they come on their own, they're not as chashuv as the ones who come during galus al yidei ritzayin bilvad. All right. So the same idea here, that if we do tshuva during galus, that's the chashuv of tshuva. That's our tshuva. If a Mashiach comes and and everyone sees that it's true and he does tshuva, okay, it's tshuva, but it's not the same level of tshuva. So he says, "V'imkein kiven sheplugtas Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yeshua hu ach ala tshuva ritzainis." That Rabbi Lezer and Yeshua are only arguing, like the Marsha says, about the tshuva we do out of our own free will. So that's another proof that they're not talking about this other tshuva that's going to happen later, after Mashiach comes. It's just like I said, that they're arguing whether there's a possibility that Mashiach will come if they don't do tshuva before he comes. If they don't do tshuva during this era of hiddenness, when Hashem's presence is hidden, the depth of galus, alright? So that's what he's trying to say, that this machlokes Rabbi Lezer and Yeshua, could we pass him like Rabbi Yeshua, that the Mashiach will come without tshuva, but that's not what the Rambam's talking about. The Rambam's talking about a different tshuva. Okay, when we brises the members acheres b'shas nira de lo yasu Yisrael tshuva koydem bias ben David. Afal yidei melech kasha kahaman. He brought in Siman Mem. There are other sources. There's Rabbi Yochanan and other brises in the end of Saita where it says that there's the Pnei Adorki, Pnei Kelev. All those sources he brought in Siman Mem all are on Rabbi Yeshua's side. Okay, yeah. That even with a Melech Kasha Kahaman there won't be such tshuva. Even any kind of tshuva. Remember the Yushalmi said that this Melech Kasha Kahaman is on Rabbi Lezer's side, but Rabbi Yeshua doesn't even have that. There's no Melech Kasha Kahaman. There's no tshuva at all. That's like the Yushalmi, and that's like all these brises. So since there's such a shita, the Rambam doesn't quote it at all, doesn't bring it at all. The Rambam doesn't go into such disputes. He doesn't get involved in a machlokes that's about what will happen, what Hashem will do. He just says one thing that's clear, that Mashiach will force the Jews to follow the Torah, the Chukah. It's mashmataka from the Rambam in Malachim that there won't be any tshuva before the Gula, before Mashiach.
Well, it doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be, yeah. And probably won't be, because that's the majority of the brises hold like that. Ki bias HaMashiach b'loy tshuva hi plukta b'shas. The fact that there'll be tshuva before Mashiach comes, that's not so clear. It's a machlokes. The Rambam doesn't go and come down on either side. That a thing that's totally Hashem, he doesn't Doesn't paskin. Ach soiver Rambam zal sha'achar biyas Mashiach terem shiyaset shum tnua shal gula. After Mashiach comes, before he does any action, or he kibbutz galius, b'vadai mikoyim yachzer kol Yisrael b'tshuva. For sure, there will be tshuva. This is the tshuva that Mashiach makes us do. Uvazeh ein shum plukta, and that there's no machlokes at all. V'hi bebraisa shenishnes b'Yerushalmi b'stama, and that's why the pasuk of the Rambam of V'shav Hashem Elokecha is mentioned in the Yerushalmi b'stama, without any names, not Reb Lezer or Yeshua. No, it's not dependent on their machlokes. V'hu mavur b'kra, it's an explicit pasuk de v'shavta. That first it says v'shavta, and then it says they'll come back into Eretz Yisrael. Take a look, just look at the Yerushalmi. We didn't look at it last week, so I'm just going to show it to you now. Page 3.
Yeah, right here.
That's the machlok for Lezer and Yeshua at the top of the page, and then I highlighted a little bit further down the page here in the middle. And the line starting, it says, let me find the place here. Mitoich chamisha dvarim. I'll start here right after the second highlighting ends. It says Mitoich chamisha dvarim niglu Yisrael miMitzrayim. Because of 5 things, the Jewish people was redeemed from Mitzrayim. Mitoich haketz, mitoich tzara, mitoich tzvachim, mitoich zchus avos, mitoich tshuva. Okay, then it goes through each of these things that brings a ride to them, and then it says, "V'chein hu omer." You see it? V'chein hu omer batzar lecha, mitoich tzar. The end of the line is about tzar lecha. And there, he says, just like by Mitzrayim, they had these 5 things. So by the future redemption, there's also going to be 5 things. What are these 5 things? Batzar lecha, the pasuk in Parshas Voschanan, it talks about the gula. It says batzar lecha, when it's bad for you, mitoich tzara, u'mitzaucha kol advarim ho'ela, v'achris hayamim, v'shavta ad Hashem Elokecha, right? Mitoich tshuva. Again, it's the Rambam's pasuk in a different place. There's 2 places where it occurs. Yeah, in Voschanan also. And then the rest, Kiel kel rachum Hashem Elokecha mitoich rachamim. Okay, I'm not going to read the rest, but you see clearly he says v'shavta mitoich tshuva. We'll go back from tshuva. Okay, so that's the Rambam's pasuk in the Yerushalmi, and it's not Rabbi Lezer or Rabbi Yeshua. Everyone agrees to it. That's the point. Okay, umavur b'gemara psachim daf vav on the base. Deloy amrin ein muktam u'ucher b'Torah. He's saying, he's anticipating someone trying to get out of these proofs by saying that maybe the pasuk of V'shavta is really written before, but really in chronological order it's going to happen afterwards, after we get back there. It's Israel, then there's going to be tshuva. So he says no. The Gemara Psachim says ein muktam u'ucher b'Torah, that psukim and Torah don't have to follow chronological order, but that's only, he says, ela b'trei and yani. That's only by 2 different parshas, 2 different places, like Nasoi and Bamidbar. They're the opposite order, right? Nasoi is on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and Bamidbar is in Rosh Chodesh Iyar. That al b'chad in Yonah, but in one parsha itself, al korchach ma'idem muktam muktam, ma'idem ucher mucher. Whatever's before is before, whatever's after is after. V'im kain mevur b'kra sha'tshuva kodemus l'chol. Tshuva is before everything. When the Yidden are still in the end of their galus and they're still in exile, the first pasuk, you'll return it to your heart. You'll think about it in your hearts. In the goyim, when you're standing among the goyim that Hashem scattered you to, and then the shavta pasuk base. And the Soiver Rambam Zal Shekivan Shizehu Avtacha Mi'ak Torah K'toisha. Since it's a promise that Torah makes that there will be tshuva, it can't be that Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua disagree over it. That's the source for this Rambam in Hilchos Malachim that says that the Mashiach will make us do tshuva. That's something that everyone agrees to. The Mimanashach, no matter how you see it, according to the shita that holds al korchach yasu tshuva oid koydem biyas hamashiach, that they'll do tshuva even before Mashiach comes. That's Rabbi Elazar's shita. Then b'vada yikaimu as the Torah Kedosha. Then for sure that Mashiach will have people fulfilling the Torah because they were fulfilling the Torah before also. Even if you hold like the shita that Mashiach might come without tshuva, but he for sure will make them do tshuva. Because the Rambam says that there won't be gula without tshuva. What the Rambam means in Hilchos Tshuva is after Biyas HaMashiach. That's how the two Rambams could fit together. It means the actions of the Gula. Even after Mashiach appears, there won't be a gathering without Tshuva. That Mashiach will have a powerful influence to make everyone do Tshuva. That's Hashem making us do Tshuva. Okay, Pirsha Mishnah. He brought in, I think, Siman Chaf Aleph, that there's the Ravid. Remember, the Ravid says that there are two stages in Kibbutz Galias. First, we're going to go back to some intermediate land where there's going to be a sorting out, and then Eretz Yisrael, right?
Yeah.
So he says on that Ravid that Sha'afar Chabiyas Mashiach lo yavayu Eretz Yisrael. In other words, he's saying that Mashiach is not the same thing as going to Eretz Yisrael. Mashiach could happen first, and Eretz Yisrael happens later. And the Ravid, you see even more that there'll be even a middle stage, right? Mashiach will come, there'll be a middle land, and then there'll be Eretz Yisrael. So, they won't come into Eretz Yisrael until they do tshuva. There'll be a sorting out of those who do tshuva and those who don't. When they're gathered in the desert somewhere. The Rambam doesn't go into these details about where will be, when will be. What will Mashiach do after he comes? Why doesn't the Rambam go into that? The Rambam says in Parakid Beis, we don't know what's going to happen until it happens. So that's why he doesn't say like the Ravid, but Al Kopanim, whatever Mashiach does to gather in the Yidden, he won't do it without tshuva. Okay? Yeah. I have some more Maamar, but we'll leave that for the next Siman because that's going to be the Geta, what he says there.